All right, welcome back. So today we are diving into, honestly, one of the wildest concepts I think I've ever come across. We're talking about a comedy script that reimagines the biblical Book of Ezekiel as a Wayans Brothers movie. Yeah, you heard me right. Trust me, you have never seen scripture quite like this. And I mean, just look at this title. This says it all, right? Don't be a menace to Judah while sipping holy water in the hood. It is the perfect, completely absurd pop culture mashup that tells you exactly what kind of hilarious ride you're in for. Okay, so let's be super clear here. We're not actually breaking down scripture today. Nope. We are diving into a totally creative reimagining, a full-on comedy script that basically asks the question, what if the prophet Ezekiel starred in a movie from the guys who gave us Scary Movie and White Checks? The whole point is to see what happens when you filter these ancient, super serious events through a modern, comedic, and let's be real, a very specific cultural lens. And you know, a movie like this, it absolutely needs the perfect cast. So let's meet the key players who bring this divine comedy to life. Because honestly, the casting choices are where the real genius of the humor is. First up, our leading man, Ezekiel himself. And who else could it be but Marlon Wayans? Now, this is not the solemn, serious prophet you're picturing from Sunday school. Oh no. This Ezekiel is full of sass, he's kind of over it, and he is constantly giving his divine boss some serious side-eye. And that catchphrase, God said you thirsty, is just chef's kiss. Perfect for calling out his people in the most 21st century way possible. And who's playing God? Well, in a move that is just pure genius, it's the voice of Dave Chappelle doing a Morgan Freeman impression. So you get that gravitas, but the character of God here is all-powerful, yeah, but also kind of forgetful and super laid back. I mean, can you imagine the creator of the universe just casually saying, "My bad," after giving you some huge command? That right there, that's comedy gold. And hey, you can't have a prophet if you don't have people to prophesy to, right? So the people of Judah are basically a walking visual gag. Just picture it. Ancient biblical robes, but they're rocking fresh out the box Jordans. They're making shady deals on burner phones, and their favorite hangout spot is a club literally called the Idol-atry Club. Get it? This whole clash of ancient and modern is the backdrop for the entire film. Okay, so now that we've met the cast, let's see how this whole thing kicks off. You know, every hero's journey starts with a call to adventure. For this Ezekiel, that call is less burning bush and, well, a lot more like a celestial rideshare. So the scene is set with our hero in maybe the most relatable situation ever. He's in exile in Babylon. He's just trying to eat his takeout in peace, and he's complaining about how bad the food is. It totally grounds this epic biblical story in a moment of pure, everyday frustration. We've all been there. And then this happens. Instead of some majestic chariot of fire, what shows up is described as a pimped-out celestial Uber held up by these bizarre, multi-faced creatures. And Ezekiel's reaction? It's not awe, it's not fear, it's just pure comedic disbelief. He's dropping references to art house films and the Muppets. This is our first real taste of the movie's humor. And this right here sets up the main conflict. God offers Ezekiel a job. Be my hype man, be my watchman. But Ezekiel, he knows his audience. He immediately pushes back, basically saying, these people don't listen. They're stubborn, like that one cousin who's watched way too many conspiracy videos. So you've got this huge divine mission clashing with a very, very human reality. So this brings us to the real heart of the movie's second act. The script takes all these truly strange, symbolic acts from the Book of Ezekiel and reimagines them as a series of, well, divine pranks, or maybe bizarre slapstick challenges that God makes Ezekiel do. And the first task? Oh man, it's a doozy. God commands Ezekiel to lie on his left side for 390 days. Just stop and think about that for a second. That is over a year, stuck on one side. The comedy here just starts with the sheer absurdity of that number. And here's the punchline. Ezekiel's reaction isn't about the spiritual meaning, it's all about his back pain, his sciatica. Then God tells him to bake bread over human poop, and Ezekiel just breaks. He talks right to the camera, you know, like he's on The Office, and he's ready to sign up for a new god. He's basically filing a divine HR complaint. All right, next up, we've got the Great Shaved Head Incident. And the instructions are so specific and so strange, you can just picture Marlon Wayans going through these motions with more and more frustration. But what makes this scene so hilarious is Ezekiel's very modern vanity. He's not worried about the deep symbolic meaning of it all. No. He is upset because his haircut, his waves, were perfect. This clash between a sacred command and personal grooming is it's fantastic. One minute he's looking fresh to death, the next he's bald and what's left of his hair is literally on fire. Okay, so now the script takes a bit of a turn. It introduces a moment of genuine tragedy, real stakes. Ezekiel's wife, the person he loves most in the world, she dies. Now, in any other story, this would be a moment of deep, profound grief. But here it's a setup for a punchline. And this is the punchline. God's instruction is the most absurdly modern, emotionally detached command you could possibly imagine. He just tells him to vibe. Just vibe. Can you even imagine being told that after a devastating loss? Ezekiel's frustration at having to perform this kind of emotional constipation as just another metaphor for his nosy neighbors, that is the peak of the film's dark humor. All right, now for the grand finale. The script takes that iconic story of the Valley of Dry Bones and frames it not as this solemn miracle, but as the ultimate comeback, the biggest glow-up in history. So God takes Ezekiel to this cemetery and asks him that profound, famous question, "Son of man, can these bones live?" And in the script, Ezekiel's response is basically, bro, you're God. You tell me. It's that signature sass, even when he's staring down a massive miracle. And then God just puts on a show. A beat drops, and the resurrection kicks off. The bones start rattling, skeletons pop up, muscles grow back, and then, for the big finish, they all get dressed in fresh Fila tracksuits and get perms. This just brilliantly illustrates the script's core idea. It's a biblical reboot, literally. The story wraps up pretty quick with a final battle against this villain named Gog. And how does God defeat him? With fire, brimstone, and, yep, you guessed it, glitter. Of course. Ezekiel's final complaint about having to clean glitter out of everything for centuries is just the perfect little button on the film's consistent comedic tone. So, why does this whole concept work so well, even just as a thought experiment? I think it's because by using modern humor and slang and all these cultural touchstones, the script makes this ancient, often really inaccessible story feel surprisingly relatable and human. It's about finding the humor in that divine struggle. And the final scene leaves us right here. We see this new gleaming city called Yahweh Heights, which represents restoration and hope. And then there's our hero, Ezekiel, finally able to just chill out and take care of his hair after, 390 days of bad hair, well, a bad everything day. It's a perfect, funny, and actually kind of sweet ending. Ultimately, a concept like this really shows that remixing a classic story can unlock totally new layers of meaning and, let's be honest, entertainment. It really makes you wonder, right? What other epic tale from mythology or literature or history is just sitting there waiting for its own hilarious modern update? It's definitely something to think about.